Second topic is the running back market. And look, there's a video that we posted, 3 weeks ago that I think it was just titled "The Running Back Market is Broken," and it is, right, because of the fact that kickers on average are getting paid more than running backs. And there's two kind of things that I thought this through. One is more football analytical, and the other one I think is more related to my vocation and how I'm kind of thinking about this. The first thing is that Mina Kimes pointed out that these running backs spend their prime on a rookie contract, right? By the time that they are free agents for the first time looking for that big deal, they're 25, 26 years old, maybe 27 years old. And that's literally statistically where damn near every running back in the NFL peaks, right? And so they're not getting rewarded for their performance through their prime years. And instead, every team is handing them a contract based off of what they're expected to do in the future, which statistically speaking is they're going to decline from that point forward, right? So that screws them over. It's actually the only average earnings that has not kept up with inflation in the past decade. Their average payment has gone down, and therefore getting franchise tag is not really lucrative either. The other aspect, and this is just kind of what I thought about being an economist, right, is, quarterbacks, there's one quarterback on the field, and they're very, very pivotal to whether or not you're successful, and therefore they get a lot of money, right? And, there's 3 wide receivers. There's a little bit more competition because people can lose their jobs a lot easier. Most of the time, there's like 3 running backs on a roster, and there's 1, maybe 2 on the field at any given time. And they don't impact the game quite the same way that quarterbacks do. And I think it actually hurts them a lot that there's only 2 or 3 on a roster versus wide receivers where you can have 8 or 9 wide receivers in a roster, right? 10, 15 offensive linemen on a roster, so on and so forth. But it's that unique position where there's one of them and they're pretty easy to replace. And therefore they're all screwing each other because of the fact that, none of them are going to get that big money contract because you only need one and they're pretty easy to replace. So it sucks. And I actually think that there might be some kind of striking or, collective bargaining or something that has to go into fixing this, because the result is that less guys are going to play running back. They're going to find other positions to play.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you just said. I'm stuck in the middle with what I really, believe in terms of this. Like, are they paid fairly? Should they be paid more? At the end of the day, I mean, you talk about some of the arguing points, right, on both sides. I think that the receiver position requires more skill, more harder skills to learn, and not just natural things that you have. Running back is, in terms of mentally, probably one of the easiest to play in football. You're not asked, you're not challenged really. How smart are you? What's your football IQ? Like, most of the time, it's just do this, just do that. It's here's the ball, make a play happen. It's mostly instincts, and like you said, replaceable, right? Like, there's maybe 10 to 12 running backs in the league that are like irreplaceable, and when I say irreplaceable, I mean, like, you're not going to find someone as good, but you'll find someone that does the job. You know what I mean? I think the prime example of that is Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard the last few years.
Right.
We watched that happen. You paid Zeke Elliott after his outstanding rookie contract, how that went for them. And then Tony Pollard, like you said, within, still those prime years of Zeke, became even more effective and was getting paid a fraction of what Zeke was. And you saw now Zeke is no longer with an NFL team and still isn't.
And then now you see Pollard can't get a contract. Jacobs can't get a contract. Saquon can't get a contract. Those are probably 3 of the top 10 running backs in the league right now.
Yeah,
and
that leads me to
a long-term deal.
That leads me to my next point is, for so long, those 10 or 12 guys were still getting the money, and it was like the rest of the backs that were getting screwed. Now, literally 2 of the top 5 or 6 running backs in the league, without a doubt, no one can argue it, and Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley couldn't land a deal on time and are going to go into the season with major question marks of, are they going to show up to camp? Are they going to sit out the year? What are they going to give physically to the team, knowing that if something happens, right, like a career-changing injury, they don't have the insurance of, well, I got my contract, and I don't know really how I would handle that if I were them, because it's tough to say no to a year where you're going to be getting the franchise tag kind of money. But like you said, the franchise tag money for running back is nowhere near what it should be, because they just don't value that position. It comes down to really just, like you said, you're replaceable. And no matter how good you are, and no matter how much you think you've done for your team, let me ask you this, John. In the last few seasons, the New York Giants, they've had some success, they've had some rough years. But who do you think has been the most consistent thing in terms of when they're successful on that team?
Yeah, I mean it's Saquon being healthy, I
Right.
think, at
And I would
least.
say for the Raiders, any success they've showed, where do you think where do you think that's come from?
It's from the run game for sure.
Right.
And the
So,
other thing that makes me, it's like kind of bums me out, is like the essence of football in a lot of ways is kind of defined by that position, right? Like
yeah,
the
it
things
sets
that
the
we
tone.
love about football, the things that makes football fun is having like a badass hard-nosed running back that can run through people. Like that's one of, I'd say any football fan just loves when Derrick Henry can truck through somebody or stiff arm somebody. Like it's one of the most like football things about
It's
football, you
sideways,
know?
man.
So
I mean,
yeah.
Saquon Barkley has given up way more physically. He's taken way more hits. He's trained way harder. He's sacrificed his body way more than Daniel Jones has the last 3 years. And who got paid this offseason?
Mhm.
Daniel Jones. Most people didn't agree with that, and Saquon Barkley doesn't get the money. But the problem is the quarterback position is that much more important. It's pivotal to winning. You can find another running back, and if Daniel Jones plays as good as they believe he will, and he plays like to the value that they paid him, the Giants will be successful whether they have Saquon or not. That's the truth. But if
Right.
Daniel Jones left because they didn't pay Daniel Jones and they gave that kind of money to Saquon, and they brought in some rookie or some guy that doesn't get the job done, Saquon's not going to take you solo to the promised land. He's not going to win you games by himself because the running game isn't as it's not as explosive, right? It's not as home run hitting. Daniel
Yeah.
Jones can score on any play because of his ability to throw the ball, right? So it's
And
just
highly
how the
contingent
game's
on the
changed.
blocking too, right? Offensive
Exactly.
line's a huge part of this as well. It's why the Lions, were able to confidently pretty much clean out the running back room, add a new cast, and it's probably going to be just as good, if not better, next year. Because not because the running backs don't have question marks around them, because I'm sure there is some questions, but because the blocking is so good
Yeah.
that it's impossible for them to f up,
The
right?
irony really is that the running game is essential for quarterbacks to have success, no matter who your quarterback is. We've seen very few quarterbacks have success without a good running game as like the 1-2 punch. You look at like Josh Allen and Mahomes, probably some of the only guys that I've ever seen have success without a consistent running game at times. Um, and those are like two of the top guys in the league, right? So the running back position will always be important. It's just the person playing running back isn't. I don't know if that makes sense to people, but
No,
you
it
can
it does.
replace them, and as long as you can function and you know what you're supposed to do, which isn't hard to teach someone what to do at the running back position, as long as you run hard, protect the football, and can block a little bit, like you can survive. And as long as you accept a little bit less money than someone with the name Saquon Barkley is asking for, you can survive.
Yeah, and again, I don't think Mark and I really agree with that. That just is the fact
It
of the matter,
sucks.
right? So I guess one question I do have before we kind of wrap up, go to our next topic, and then get into the film for the AFC East is: have you thought of any solutions? Is there any way to make it where, okay, the running back market is what it is, but it's also not super fair to the running backs? Is there a way where they are more valued or getting more money in their pocket that isn't completely ass backwards and, like is doing something silly? Like what's a realistic solution to this problem? Um, Best thing I can think of is skill players in general are lumped together when it comes to what the franchise tag average is, right?
You include
Somebody
quarterbacks in that,
No, just now you're talking running
tight
backs,
ends,
wide
running backs.
receivers, tight ends, exactly. Because somebody pointed out that offensive and defensive linemen are treated that way, which elevates the guards and the centers because tackles get paid more, quite a bit more on average. So I actually thought that was a decent solution. Then if you're getting franchise tag, man, that's still a good chunk of money, right? Because you're getting the receivers in there. All of a sudden your tag is going up,
Yeah.
probably $4 or $5 million versus what it currently is for the running back market. So
Yeah, it's not a bad. So I don't know if there really is a true solution though, John, with just the way that the cap is set up and with how the NFL's GMs, owners, coaches view positionally the importance, right? I mean, if you
Right.
went on a whiteboard and you just said, put in order offensively, what's most important in terms of who we pay, who we make sure we keep happy on our, it's going to be quarterback. It's going to be probably a star receiver. Like you said, offensive tackle, probably a few more offensive linemen, and then tight end would probably be ahead of running back now, which is
Right.
crazy to say.
Running back
But
would be
like
dead
running
last,
back's gonna fall.
basically.
It's gonna
Yeah.
fall, and that's kind of a common thing throughout the league. It's not just one team who thinks this. It stems back to like when Le'Veon Bell thought he was worth more money and chose to sit out, and it did not work out for him. And ever since then, running backs have had this battle, and no one has really successfully sat out and gotten what they wanted as a running back. We've seen receivers threaten to do it and have success. We've seen quarterbacks for sure do it. I mean, hell, we've even seen some offensive linemen do it and get what they think they're worth.
Yeah, the running back gets
I don't
screwed
like
every
doing
time when
that,
they
but
do
I mean,
that.
if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. I get that money comes first, and this is their profession. This is how they provide for their families and stuff. But it sucks, man. I hope there's some kind of solution, because I really do think we are on the brink of, like you said, some kind of a strike, or because running backs around the league, even guys that are happy, relatively happy with their pay, see this and they're like, this ain't right. Like
Mhm.
Saquon Barkley not getting paid and Daniel Jones getting paid, that ain't right.
Right. Yeah,
You
I
know?
completely agree.
So I like and they know that they could be next. You know, Najee Harris sees that and thinks that could be me, right? Like
Right.
Christian McCaffrey, that could be me.
I mean, the
So
rookies probably even
the
seeing it,
rookies
or
are thinking it
like,
too. I mean, Bijan
oh,
Robinson
I'm
sees it like, is
screwed
that
in
gonna
4 or
are they
5
gonna do that
years.
to me in 3 years? Like
Totally. Right.
I'm reminding everybody of Saquon when he came into the league. I'm gonna light it up and I'm gonna do it for 3 seasons. And what's gonna happen? Is Atlanta just gonna screw me over in 3 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
everyone's thinking
it's
the
a
same thing. I
very
don't
tough
know.
situation.